Egoqueenalexis, the Egoqueen, and welcome back to this tactics video series where we look at every single unit in the codex and talk about basic tactics, their gear, their loadouts, and how I would use them. Today we are talking about Seraphim. Seraphim are an effective unit on the battlefield as well as one of your fastest units. Keep this in mind as they will be your new bodyguards for Saint Celestine as she runs up the battlefield. Their weapons and war gear are very devastating, but let's take a look at the army. Okay everyone, welcome back to the basic tactics overview. Today we are talking about Seraphim. Seraphim make up one of your fastest, heaviest hitting units. Similar to Dominions. But Dominions take tanks, these girls take jump packs. I say similarly, they fill very different roles, but in a similar manner? I don't know, I'm going to keep saying similar until you believe me. Anyway. First off, let's go over their stats and what makes them cool. So right off the bat, they have a 12-inch movement, weapon skill and ballistic skill 3+. The weapon skill of 3+ is going to be very important. Strength 3, Toughness 3, 1 wound, 1 attack, 7 leadership, 3+ save. Now, we are going to talk about how we're going to make that a 3++. The Seraphim Superior has 1 additional attack and leadership 8. The unit contains 1 Seraphim Superior and 4 additional Seraphim. It can, however, include 5 more. You always want to take them in squads of 10 unless you're doing min squads to maximize the amount of firepower you're using. Seraphim are effective in both sizes. I highly don't recommend doing sizes like 7 or things of that nature. Go big or go home. It's either you're going to take a squad of 5 or you're going to take a squad of 10. Don't do anything in between. You'll see in some of my battle reports that I do. This is simply because, well, I lack the models. First thing I want to say is never take hand flamers. They are garbage. Even with the stratagem, they are really bad. Plasma pistols are actually decent. Anyway, their basic weapons and war gear include a train apparently going by my house. But anyway, basic weapons include a plasma pistol, a power sword, Inferno Pistols, hand flamers, and that's pretty much it, and bolt pistols. The unit composition that I mostly use is 2 with 2 Inferno Pistols, Canoness, Sister Superior with Plasma Pistol, Bolt Pistol. Yes, I do need to mod this model. It is very difficult to mod metal models, so I apologize if it's not modeled correctly. Now you'll notice Celestine in the background because like everything in the codex, they need support. So, how we're going to do this. Seraphim Superior, up to 2 of them may replace their bolt pistols with hand flamers or 2 Inferno Pistols. Now, I would never suggest taking hand flamer, bolt pistol, and plasma with a bunch of bolt pistols to try to do Holy Trinity. It's not worth it. Go with Inferno. It's the better option. Trust me on that. Hand flamers, not worth it. The stratagem, garbage. It's meant... GW is just trying to sell you the hand flamers because they have a plethora of them and nobody wants them. Now, some of their abilities. They have Axe of Faith and Shield of Faith, which by now we already know what they do, and we've already talked about them enough. Okay, they're one of the few sisters in the army that cannot take Stormbolters, though it would be a cool option to see Seraphim with dual Stormbolters. I'm not going to lie, I think that would be pretty awesome. The Seraphim Superior may get a chainsword, which is something that I really like. Sometimes I do chainsword bolt pistol or chainsword bolt plasma pistol, but usually I stick to plasma and bolt pistol as it's But let's for instance say that we have a close combat weapon on there or a chainsword. Okay, so they have Angelic Visage. Improve the invulnerable saves this unit receives from Shield of Faith ability by 1 to a max of 3+. Their Shield of Faith is already a 5+, now it's a 4+, now Indomitable Belief, it's a 3+. Keep that in mind, it is very important. Usually when taking Seraphim, I try my hardest to get as many squads as possible. I'll either do this by doing 3 squads of 5 with 2 Inferno and a Plasma Pistol in each and every single one of them. Or what I do is I take 2 to 3 giant squads. I have on back order a bunch of Seraphim. So as soon as they get available on eBay, I'm snatching them up as quickly as I can so that I can get as many Seraphim as possible because I want 3 units and 30 Seraphim on the field. Especially being that all you need is 2 characters to maximize their abilities. They also have Deep Strike. It's called Sky Strike. It's Deep Strike. We know what Deep Strike is. GW has tried to make it fancy and everything by giving them all their own unique individual special rules, but it's Deep Strike. Let's be real. Now, one of the main tactics that I do with my Seraphim, since they don't have the old double movement characteristic anymore, is I advance them along with Celestine and a Canoness. The Canoness having Indomitable Belief, as I've stated before, and I have to check to see if these abilities stack, because apparently they took away our abilities, and they recently FAQ'd that the Book of St. Lucas does not affect the stratagem, even though aura abilities by definition are just abilities that stretch out from the character, and it would. But I digress. GW is not the best at writing rules sometimes. So Indomitable Belief, invulnerable saves of friendly order units received from the Shield of Faith ability is improved to 5+ whilst they are within 6 inches of your warlord. That is technically an aura, and the Book of St. Lucas does technically affect it, but at this point I would wait for another FAQ to check that, because they are really weird about this. Personally, I think it does, because it becomes an ability of the character, unlike the stratagem. So it's really up to your interpretation of the rule itself. Discuss it with your opponent prior to the game. But for all intents and purposes, let's say we start the game with the Seraphim unit on the field. Okay? Because if you're deep striking them, you're losing. Because if you deep strike anything this edition, you're losing. Which is really sad. Anyway, what I like to do is I take 3 units of, and again, I forgot to bring out my repressors, so let's just say these immolators are my 3 units of Dominions with meltaguns and repressors. These immolators, but pretend that they're repressors for the sake of this video. What I usually do is I Vanguard move these things up 12 inches, so they're already up on the board. Then I move my Canoness, and what I try to do is get the ability off, where are you? So I can get the ability's name correctly, because I have a habit of saying the wrong act of faith for what I mean. And I do apologize about that, by the way. Hand of the Emperor. Use this act of faith at the start of your movement phase. If successful, add 3 inches to the selected unit's move characteristic. So what I will do is I will take her, put her as close to the front lines as possible, but still in between 2 units so that she is not the closest. Even by millimeters, this matters. Okay? So this way, when my repressors advance up, they only have to move 9 inches, I usually do. And then they get the additional movement, which stays the same, but anyway. I try to get the Seraphim, Canoness, and Celestine all within range of my Dominions, is what I'm trying to say. Usually by advancing the Canoness, advancing Celestine, but keeping these girls moving normally. This way they can fire. Now, the way you do this is you use the Hand of the Emperor, then combined it with, you know, I hate how this book is set up, Vessel of the Emperor's Will. So this way everything in the immediate bubble of 3 inches to whatever, the immediate 6 inches around her, get to move an additional 3 inches, meaning these girls move 15 inches. And with a 6-inch gun, it's going to be very hard to get them into range turn 1. But it is also really good for getting multiple units up with a 3-up invulnerable save to protect your Dominions. So as the Dominions advance, they will take the brunt of the firepower from your opponent. If you get Celestine and the Canoness off with a good run, they can actually catch right up to the Dominions, meaning that the Dominions, the Seraphim, will all have bonus invulnerable saves. +2 for them, 3 up for them. So 4+ for these, 3+ for these. That being said, I like to take line, meaning I take the most room that I can out of my deployment zone. Usually this means that I'm 24 inches away from my opponent, but with moving 15 inches, I'm only in range of 21 inches, and yes, I did just count in my head, and I apologize about that. But it still gets my aura abilities within range of my dominions. And these Seraphim protect the 2 characters, because Celestine is still a character, and these are her new Gemini. Because the Gemini kind of suck now, and there's no point to taking them. But I digress about that. Like any unit in this codex, they need support characters. So Celestine and the Canoness, but they can also benefit from a Hospitaller, just healing them once per turn, using the Canoness to cast the Act of Faith that heals, and using the Aura Bubble to extend to everything next to it, then healing another unit once again with the Hospitaller. Bring back 2 girls a turn, possibly. They also benefit from Jokobus, because Jokobus is amazing, or anything with war hymns in general. They're also really good with the Act of Faith that gives them +1 to shoot. Use it on the Canoness, Vessel of the Emperor's Will to all 3 squads. Hitting with Inferno Pistols on 2+, and that is 6 Inferno Pistols, 3 Plasma Pistols. Is extremely efficient. Aside from that, the other main abilities is getting them within range of the war hymns and attacking. Now, they hit on 3s. They would be Strength 4 with Bloody Rose, with 2 attacks base. 3 attacks comes 5 attacks with the Sister Superior because of Chainsword. If you are running as Bloody Rose, I highly suggest Chainsword over another bolt pistol. Just saying. That combined with the 3-up invulnerable save and their Inferno Pistols, it might actually be a safe bet to jump into combat, especially with something like your Repressor going in first. And yes, I know this is an emulator, but we're still pretending it's a Repressor. Because the Repressor gets an insane number of attacks in infantry. You want to hit light units with your Seraphim, and then during your next turn, you can either jump away, because they have the fly keyword and still fire, or you can stay locked in combat and fire your Inferno Pistols and Bolt Pistols at them, then finish them off in close combat. Granted, if you stay in combat, you're only Strength 3 with just the bare bones stat line, but it's still kind of worth it if you wrap a tank. So one of the things that I like to do is target small and weak units with them, because their Bolt Pistols will rip them apart, or lock up a tank with them and let the Repressors hit infantry. This clears the way for Celestine to be safe, as well as your Canoness to be safe, especially if you're doing a completely offensive Canoness, like Canoness Kane here with her Inferno Pistol and her Eviscerator, which might switch back to the Blade of Admission or something like that. I forget what the blade's actually called. That's why I refer to it as the Blade if I forget what it's called. Also, keeping a Delgadus nearby is always useful. Keep the Delgadus near your Canoness at all times. This is a horrifying looking model, so I usually use this one. She looks like she's yelling at somebody. It counts. Whilst keeping them alive, it is very important to bubble wrap your characters, even in close combat. So once you finish off close combat, if your Canoness has to be base, which they do to make their attacks, what you want to do with your movement afterwards, your 3-inch pile-in or consolidation, is move something in front and in back of your Canoness so that she cannot be shot. Do the same for Celestine herself. It only requires just a little bit. And so long as you are just getting closer to your opponent after combat, assuming that you've destroyed the unit, they still can't get shot at, which means all of the attacks will have to go on the 3+ invulnerable saves. Now, Seraphim are not invincible. Keep this in mind. All Sisters of Battle have a 3+ toughness. Have a 3 toughness, meaning most weapons wound them on a 3+. Lasguns wounding them on a 4+. Enough sustained fire will take them out, even with a 3+ invulnerable save. So it's really key that you hit a unit and lock these girls in combat to protect them. as well as bubble wrapping your characters so your opponent can't attack them. So if your opponent has a tank, for instance, you want to charge the tank and make sure you get one girl on every single side of the tank. This way the tank cannot retreat. Be sure to leave not enough room for the tank to actually get out, even if you have to base it. I actually highly suggest you base it, and basing means that you have something up against the tank so that it is touching the tank, so that the tank itself cannot move. Seraphim will take the brunt of the attacks from your opponent, so this allows your Dominions and your Retributors to get into range, as well as some Celestians to get up the battlefield to protect your Canoness in case she does actually start taking wounds. And with them, you want to put them in a regular battalion detachment. You can do a separate detachment of 3 of them and 1 Canoness, but I find that they're best in a detachment of just Bloody Rose. I take 3 squads of them with Bloody Rose, and my Dominions are usually 3 squads of them from Order of the Ebon Chalice. And with that, I always keep a Canoness nearby to cast Will of the Emperor. What is it called again? Vessel of the Emperor's Will, I believe it's called. Yep, Vessel of the Emperor's Will. Because that affects all units that have the Adeptus Sororitas keyword, including vehicles. So you can actually heal up your vehicles. Now, that all being said, get 3 squads, have some fun. Inferno Pistols, mine actually come from the Bangles kit, the Blood Angels. I use Seraphim Superior because these are easier to get off of eBay than anything else. What you do is you just cut at the wrist of the sword itself and put the gun there. It's the gun there. And it's a really simple conversion. And I plan to do it to more Sister Superior. In fact, I may make a video showing cutting of metal and how I do it. It's usually just a clipper. And I'm still on the lookout for a female Jokobus model. So if you guys have any suggestions, comment in the comment section down below. Post a link so that I can find it. And if you guys run your Seraphim any different than the way that I do in this video, please comment down below and tell your stories of how you've run them. Anyway, guys, I'm Alexis the Ego Queen. And, oh wait, I have to do my exit thingy before that. Be sure to comment in the comment section down below. While you're down there, check out the description. In the description, you can find the links to all of my social media. Be sure to follow me on each and every single one, if you want. If you are super awesome, you can check out my Patreon. My Patreon does have exclusive videos on it that don't make it to the actual YouTube page, usually because they're risque or they're about just random drunken rambles. And you can see my latest photo shoot there in a couple of weeks. And my latest photo shoot includes my Sororitas battle plate, which you saw in the intro of this video, but an actual full photo shoot of it, my Repentia cosplay, as well as my lingerie. And yes, I am a lingerie model. Should probably edit that out. I'm probably not going to. Probably going to forget that I'm going to say this. Anyway, guys, I'm Alexis the Ego Queen. I love you guys. Bye.